Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to today's episode of the Next Level Women Show. Today, we're going to be talking about how to finally build the success you've always dreamt of. How to finally build the life of impact and success you've always wanted. And in today's episode, I'm going to tell you the number one reason why you haven't created the success yet. And it is going to surprise you. So welcome. If this is your first time in my world, welcome. And if you are a regular listener or watcher of our YouTube channel, welcome. I am so grateful you're here. Now, it's been a very long time since I did a solo episode. So for the past 4 months or so, I have always had either a guest or I have been teaching. So I've been teaching workshops, have been hosting masterminds. So it's been a very long time I did a solo episode. And I just have to say that I miss doing these solo episodes. This is what lights me up. I love just talking to you as though I was talking to a friend from my heart. And I miss you guys, okay? Thank you for all the lovely comments on LinkedIn, Instagram. People who send me DMs, thank you for all the lovely DMs. It truly, truly means a lot to me that you're finding value in the content I am putting out. So today we're going to talk about how to finally create the successful life you've always desired. And having worked with hundreds of women at this point, I have seen firsthand what stops people from creating their big, audacious life. And even from my own experience as well, I'm going to tell you how to break that to finally create the successful life you desire. And I want you to think back to the beginning of the year. Think back to January of 2026. You may have set goals for yourself. And I want to ask you, this is now August. How close are you to hitting your goals? How close are you to creating that successful life you've always desired? First, I want you to take agency. Take agency of the results you've created up until now. The results you create in your life, I want you to take agency. Here's why. If you take agency, then you can change the results. But if you defer to external circumstances, then you cannot change the results. I say this because a couple of weeks ago, I hopped on a consultation with a lady. And when I asked her, because she told me she isn't signing clients, she isn't making the sale. Like when she makes offers, she said she doubts herself at the point where she makes an offer. So I said, tell me why you aren't making this amount of sales you want in your business. And she said to me, as she was talking, she said, oh, the economy, people are hesitant to buy services. And I stopped her and I said, that's your problem. You think the economy is the reason why people aren't buying, but the economy isn't a fact. Okay? Now, I'll explain to you what I mean by the economy isn't a fact. Just saying the economy is bad, well, that's your opinion. I'll tell you why it isn't a fact. It isn't a fact because in this same economy, hundreds and thousands of people are still making lots and lots of money. In fact, for some people, this is the best time of their business. They're signing so many clients every single month in this same economy. So that is proof that the economy isn't the reason why you aren't successful. You are choosing to think the economy is bad. Now, if you follow me for any length of time, I teach a framework called the model. And the model says the circumstances are neutral, okay? But the thoughts we choose to think about the circumstance generates a feeling in our body. And when we feel a certain way, first of all, it generates a thought. Okay, so the thought we think about the circumstance generates a feeling in our bodies. And the feeling we feel in our bodies drives us to take certain actions or inaction. right? And that determines the results we create. The action we take or the inaction determines the results we create in our lives. Okay, so if you choose to think the economy is bad, okay, let's go through that model. So when I say the economy is not a fact, this is what I mean. If you gave me a fact, it needs to be something that can be proven in a court of law. Okay, so the economy is bad, that's your opinion. Because for some other people in this same economy, they're making a killing. So for them, the economy is good. So if we wanted to be factual, we would say the GDP for July of 2026 was XYZ. Okay, so we'll be using figures. Okay, or we would say the inflation rate was 2.6%. That's a fact, right? So you just saying the economy is bad, that's not factual. Okay, so let's take the example of the inflation rate. So let's say inflation rate is 2.6%. That's a fact. But you are choosing to think that that figure means the economy is bad. And when you choose to think that the economy is bad, what feeling does it generate in your body? So let me hold on a bit so you can test this model. So when you think the economy is bad, how do you feel? You feel dejected. You feel hopeless. And when you feel dejected and hopeless, what do? Well, maybe you grab a tub of ice cream, you eat chocolates, you eat cakes. And when you grab a tub of ice cream, eat chocolates, and you eat cakes, what results do you create? Well, you create zero in your business. So you see how the thought you're choosing to think about the inflation figure drives the action you take. Now, let's go the other way, go using the same model. If you choose to think the economy is great, people are buying, if you choose those thoughts. And here's the thing, thoughts are optional, right? You and I get to decide what thoughts we think. So if you chose to think the economy is great, people are buying, Brooke Castillo made $50 million last year, for example, my coach. So if I choose to think, oh my gosh, the economy is great, people are buying. Now, when I think those thoughts, how do I feel in my body? Well, I feel excited. I feel motivated. I feel convicted. When I feel those feelings, what actions do I take? Well, I show up in my business, I do a live, I make an offer, I invite people to come work with me. When I take those actions, what results do I create? Guess what? I sign clients. So I've just gone through two examples of the models. One, you believing the economy is bad, and two, somebody else believing that the economy is great. So I want you to understand that you have agency. Okay, you have agency. So take ownership of the results you've created so far. Because when you take ownership, then we can change the results. You can change your circumstance and change the results. Okay, so that's step number one, taking ownership. Step number two is understanding the reason why you haven't created the successful life you desire. And here's the only reason why. The only reason why is because you do not have unshakable, undeniable belief and conviction in yourself. You do not have total belief in yourself to create success. That's the only reason why. Because if you did have unshakable, undeniable belief in yourself, you will take different actions. You will show up differently in your business to create the success you want. And I know this because this is exactly what I had to struggle with when I was building my business. And this is why I say my clients as well, the clients I coach one-on-one. Because that point where you doubt yourself, even if it's for a millisecond, when you doubt yourself when you're about to take big, audacious actions in your business, that doubt, that self-doubt you have affects how you show up. It affects your confidence. It affects your conviction in the offer you're bringing to the world. And so each time that self-doubt, that fear sabotages your results. And that's why you haven't created the success you want in your life. Now, I also want you to understand that Your energy and frequency is what helps you create results. I'm going to give you an example. I want you to think back to New Year's Day. Okay, on New Year's Day of 2026, it was the morning, January 1st, 2026. How did you feel? I want you to think back. Most likely, you were very excited. You were very excited and hopeful for the new year. Now, I want you to think back to that emotion you had, the emotion of hope, the emotion of excitement for a new year, and compare that with the emotion and energy you have day to day. Can you see the difference? When it was New Year's Day and the beginning of the year, you were very excited, but then you got into the daily grind. And let's say you take the kids to school, you have to go to your 9 to 5 job, and then the daily grind started happening. And then you lost that excitement. You lost that optimism for the new year. Okay. Now, the energy that creates success, when I say energy, I'm also talking about the frequency, how you show up. That energy of certainty, of conviction, of hope, of joy, of gratitude, that's the energy that creates success. But because we live day to day, right? The day happens, days become weeks, weeks become months, and then you fall back into old habits. That's the reason why. Now, I'm not saying this to tell you there's a flaw in who you are. No, this is how most people live. We have big, audacious goals at the beginning of the year, but when it comes to execution to get those results, that's where we falter. So I want you to think for yourself, your day-to-day, how does your day-to-day look like? When you doubt yourself, when you do not believe in the offer you bring to the world, you're not going to create the success you want. And that is why in our community, especially when I look back to the last couple of months, the women who have continually created success in our community are the women who kept showing up and surrounding themselves with the fire of creation. So it's almost like being by the fireplace to feed your dreams, right? Because your dreams need nurturing. Okay. Now, I want you to think about sharing your dream with someone who doesn't even believe in your vision. That's going to kill your dream, especially if you live in an environment of people who have no experience with entrepreneurship, people who feed your fear, people who feed your doubt. You're not going to take action. Now, compare that with constantly surrounding yourself with women who are ambitious, women who are actively working on creating a big, audacious life. Your situation will be different, completely different. And I want to tell you that the fear and the doubt affects many people. In fact, like I said, the last, I want to say 4 months or so, I've been hosting masterminds and events. And something shocking happened. So in one of our events, so usually women will come together, they will meet new people, introduce themselves. In the event, we had so many women, right? And I'm looking at all of these women on my screen, right? We're on Zoom, and I am admiring these women, right? They look successful, they look confident, and I'm like, oh my goodness, these are amazing women. And then they introduce themselves. We go into breakout rooms and we get to know each other. And then they open up and they said, and many of them are in tears at this point. They're like, I doubt myself. I have imposter syndrome, and it stops me from taking action. And I'm like, what? This woman who looks so well put together, who looks so confident, how can she doubt herself? And I'm like, oh my goodness. How is that possible? Because from the outside, me looking in, you have all it takes. You have the looks, you have the experience, you have the knowledge. But somehow our brains, in the quiet of our minds, convinces us we're not good enough. When you look in the mirror, you don't feel you have what it takes to create the success you desire. That's exactly why I created my monthly membership for Next Level Women. I wanted, almost like going to the gym, right? So if you were trying to lose weight or get stronger, you wouldn't just go to the gym once a month and say, oh, that's enough, right? You have to build that muscle and surround yourself in an environment that inspires you to keep going. So let's say you struggle with, I don't know, cookies and chocolates, like me, all right? Let's say that's your weak point. If you were going to the gym, let's say every other day, and you see people working on their dreams and working hard, and you do the same, and you come home, that urge to go grab a tub of ice cream or grab chocolate, that urge starts to diminish gradually, right? It starts to diminish gradually. And then after a while, you start to see results, right? Let's say you lose 5 pounds and you're like, oh my gosh, this is working. And it inspires you to keep going. That's the gym you go to for your body. And here's the question for you. Why do we prioritize our physical looks over our mental agility? Many people go to the gym, but not many people have a gym for their minds to help them create the success they want. That's why I created Next Level Women. It's a membership where you get to come be in community with other women who are building their successful life. And I can tell you that this is so powerful because when I have surrounded myself with women who are creating their big, audacious life, it inspires me. When on days when I doubt myself, they pull me up. And it just works like magic because when you are around women who are going after their dreams, you get inspired too. That's why I created this community because this is what worked for me. Now, when I was in masterminds, it wasn't a membership. It wasn't a monthly membership. I had to pay top dollar to be around those women. But I thought to myself, what if I could create a highly accessible community that gives women that place to come build, get the support, get the coaching so that they build their confidence, they build their muscle in creating the success they actually desire. Like I said, this is a monthly membership. There is no long-term contract. In fact, it is currently at $47 per month, which is crazy. Now, here's the catch. The $47 per month only applies to the first 100 people. Once we reach 100 in the community, that price goes away. It goes to $97 per month. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this and you're like, I need help. I don't want to keep sabotaging myself. I don't want to keep doubting myself. I want to be in community with women who are building so that I can reach my goals faster. Then you need to go check it out. The link will be in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and it will be in the show notes if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcast. And I want you to realize that when you have rock solid belief and confidence in yourself, you're going to make sales. You're going to create the success you desire. Your business is going to be unrecognizable. Now, I'm going to give you the strategy. Okay. So I also teach strategy in the membership, and many people wouldn't believe this, that the strategy is only about 5% of it. Right? So, first of all, let me tell you this. If you went on Amazon, do you know how many books there are on self-help? How many books there are on business, how to build a successful business? They are, I'm not even exaggerating, I'm sure, millions of books at this point. So if there are millions of books with the strategy and the personal finance, right? How to manage money, all of those things. Why is it that even more people are struggling right now? I'm going to tell you. The problem is a lack of information. Okay. So when people tell me, oh, I just need a better strategy, I don't think so. Now, it doesn't mean that if this is the first time you're building a business or trying to get your finances in order, you want to learn how to invest, etc. It doesn't mean you don't need those strategies. That's why I teach that inside of the membership. But I want to tell you that 99.999% of the time, it is about what's happening in here, your mindset. Because if your mindset is rock solid and you have full belief and confidence in yourself, you're going to create the results. It doesn't matter the strategy you use. Why? Because there are people on LinkedIn, there are people on YouTube, there are people on Instagram, there are people on TikTok. So different strategies work. I believe all strategies work. The reason why you haven't created the success you desire is because you do not have full, rock solid belief in yourself. You do not have confidence. You do not have conviction in the offer you bring to the world. So inside of Next Level Women, this is what we do. Every single week, I get to coach you. And I cannot tell you the power of getting coached. Now, you're not going to find tons and tons of videos to overwhelm you. No. How many people buy programs and courses and never watch them? So many people invest in courses, programs, and they just watch maybe the first 2 videos and then that's it. In my membership, I focus on implementation. And when I say implementation, I'm going to coach you every week on the obstacles that you're coming up against. The reason why when you're about to make a sale or make an offer, you doubt yourself internally, or let's say you're on a sales call and you're about to sell a $5,000 program to somebody. At the point where you're about to sell or even name your price, you doubt yourself internally. And that doubt affects how you show up in front of the person you're talking to. And just that subtle doubt you have inside yourself will cost you the sale. That's what we work through. So when you come every single week, I get to coach you so that you overcome those obstacles and go implement the next week. That's the power of coaching. And I have seen that in my clients too. All of my clients who have created results. If you go to my link in bio, it will be in the show notes. You can go see testimonials, client testimonials of the transformation that clients have had from working with me. That's because you cannot see the full picture if you are in the picture. You can't see the full view, right? So let's say this is a picture of you. I'm going to use this book as an example, one of my favorite books. Imagine this is a picture and you are in the frame. How can you see the full picture if you are in the frame? That's the power of having a coach. All of the success I have created for myself, I can attribute to the coaches I have hired to work with me one-on-one. Okay. Now, your coach or your mentor can see you in the picture. And so they can guide you and say, this is what to do. This is how to do this. Okay. That's the power of getting a coach. And imagine for only $47 per month, you get to have that. It's just crazy. And this is a no-brainer. And like I said, it's only available to the first 100 people. So if you're listening to this, I encourage you, go grab a spot. If you go on the opt-in page, the price you see, if it is still $47, just go ahead and join, because once you go on the page and it is $97, that's the price you have to pay. I'm only keeping this for the first 100 people. Once we hit 100 in the group, the price goes up to $97. I've made it super, super accessible so that money is never, ever a reason why a woman doesn't get the help and support she needs. Now, if you have followed my journey for the past 4 years, I've been doing this for 4 years now. I became a certified life coach through the Life Coach School in 2023. Why am I saying 4 years? So 2023, 24, 25, actually 3 years. I feel like I've been doing this for a lot longer. So I got certified through the Life Coach School in August of 2023. So this is exactly 3 years I've been doing this work now. And I can tell you that I came across those hurdles, the doubt, And if you go back and re-listen to those episodes, I shared with you every single thing I was struggling with. When I first started, I am like, I sound funny. No one is going to understand my accent. I am Black, right? I had all of those imposter syndrome. And I had to work through all of those. And guess what? Unbelievable. Clients are now hiring me to work with them one-on-one because of how I sound. It's just crazy. People say they like my voice. I'm like, oh my gosh, the voice in my head kept telling me I sounded terrible. This is why I know that your problem isn't strategy. It isn't strategy. I have met women who told me that the voice in their heads told them they were too fat, too ugly to be on camera. And I look at these women and they genuinely look so beautiful. I am not saying this just to make them feel good. They look so beautiful, but the voice in their heads convinced them that they didn't have what it took. And so they don't show up the way they want to show up. They don't do lives. They don't do videos. They don't ask for the sale. They keep attending networking events and never ever build the courage to sell their offer. That's not a strategy problem. That's a mindset problem. That's why I help people work through. Let's go to finance. I'm a certified financial coach. One of the things I help women do is to build a rock solid portfolio. So I say, I can help you turn your current income into a 7-figure portfolio. That's what I help women do. Not only am I a master certified financial coach, I am actually licensed to give advice. So I'm licensed with the government regulators. So I can give financial advice and I can help you build your financial infrastructure to turn your income into a rock solid 7-figure portfolio. That's what I do. And so for many women, the strategy isn't a problem, right? There are so many personal finance books, so many books on investments. Now, I have to admit here that sometimes investing can be overwhelming, especially if you do not want to gamble your money in the stock market or in crypto, right? I do not want to gamble my money. I work hard for my money. I love my money. And I want to put my money in investments that are guaranteed that I will never make a loss. And did you know that the investments that guarantee you never make a loss? So you don't have to gamble your money on the stock market or on crypto. Okay, so that's the strategy I help women implement. I don't just teach these strategies, I actually help you implement so you can log into your investment account and see how your money is growing. That's what I do. And so for many women, it is not the lack of strategy that is holding them back. It is the rock solid belief in themselves, unshakable belief that they deserve success. And that rock solid, unshakable belief drives how you show up in the world. So if you have any questions, I know I've really taught from the heart. I have no notes around me for this episode. I'm like, I want to teach from my mind. And the reason I'm able to teach from my mind is because this is what I see in my clients. I'm teaching you from head knowledge, right? I have no notes today. Right? The reason I'm able to do that is because I am so passionate about the work I do. I am so passionate about helping women create that life of success that they desire. Because I know that's what I struggled with when I started. That's what I struggled with. I didn't believe success was possible for me. And I invested in coaches. In fact, at this point, tens of thousands of dollars to help me change the way I think about myself, to finally help me fall in love with myself. And that work I have done affects how I show up. And I'm able to still make incredible amount of money, serve so many people, make an impact. In fact, when I listen to the testimonials people have written about my work, many times I'm in tears. And if you've been to my masterminds or networking events, most likely you've seen me in tears, right? I'm a very, very emotional person. And when I see all of these amazing testimonials, it really touches my heart. So if you have been listening to this show and you haven't written a review yet, please go right now to Apple Podcast and leave me a rating and a review. On Spotify only allows rating. So leave me a rating on Spotify, but go on Apple Podcast and leave me a review and a rating. That truly helps this work get in front of more people. In fact, right now, this podcast is rated top 2% globally by Listen Notes. I'm like, what? My mind is blown. And that's because of all of you listeners who listen to this show every single week. And for you who leave me a review on Apple Podcast. You can also comment if you're watching on YouTube. Tell me your biggest takeaway. You can also send me a DM on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn right now. That's where I'm forming the most connections. So just send me a DM, and I am so glad to help you. I want to help you reach your next level. That's the whole point. Because when women make money, the whole world gets better. The more money women make, the better the world gets. And you deserve success. You deserve to make as much as you want to make. Now, when my coach first started coaching me, her name is 𝗃𝗡 Castillo. She's the founder of the Life Coach School. I remember on a call. Now, she doesn't work with people one-on-one, okay? So she does group coaching. So I raised my hand and she coached me and she said, how much do you want to make? And I remember thinking, do I get to decide how much I want to make? I thought my employer decides how much I want to make. And she said, no, you have the agency to decide. And I'm like, what? And it is so true. Once I decided how much I wanted to start making, then my brain started to find ways to achieve that income goal. So that's the same question I want to ask you. How much do you truly want to make? Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I know I'm going over than I usually go, but I was in a mastermind. I was hosting a mastermind, and I remember asking the ladies, how much do you want to make? And I asked them to type it in the chat. So they typed in the chat, and this lady said $1,000. And I'm like, okay, $1,000? And you're in America. How much can $1,000 buy? And obviously, it was a very loving environment, right? That's the environment I create. And one of the women on the call said she doesn't believe she can ever make over $1,000 in her business. And I'm like, yeah. This amazing human being, for some reason, her brain couldn't even compute making over $1,000 in her business every month. And that made me really sad. So I want to challenge you. I want to tell you that you can actually create a successful life. You deserve it. I love you all so much. God bless you. And may God continue to shine his face upon you. I'll see you back here on the next episode. Now, if you have any specific topics you want me to cover on the show, drop me a DM or comment on the YouTube video below. I read every comment and I respond to every comment. But if you want to message me privately, just send me a private DM on either LinkedIn or Instagram. Sometimes I'm on Instagram, but most times I spend my time on LinkedIn. All right.